All right, see what we got going on here. I got about an hour and a half to hang out before the wife gets home, so figure I'll hop on here and see what's going on, see what we're working on, see if anybody comes to hang out tonight while we talk about Linux. A few things kind of important. We have in our Discord, we have a bunch of events coming up. So let me show you guys if you're not familiar, because this is kind of the crux of what we do around here. We've got Discord. We've got a big annual technology conference coming up this weekend, and this is kind of the, I don't know, it's a big part of what we do is try to get people into Linux and technology fields. And one of the first things I always tell you guys is you've got to find what's interesting to you, right? You got to find, not everybody wants to just do straight Linux all day. Not everybody wants to do security, although most people think they want to do security. But once they actually see what some of those jobs look like, they're like, maybe I'll go be over on the Linux or the networking side, right? Anyway, so the point is, I'm gonna have a bunch of people come and talk to you guys about getting into these, roles. That's this weekend. So if you join the Discord, right, there's exclamation Discord. If you're over on Twitch, if you're on YouTube, it's just down in the description. And what you go do is you look at the events because they're going to be in your time zone for whatever your time zone is. So don't look at the times and think, oh, I'm over here in Europe or something, and your time zone's all jacked up compared to mine. This is in Pacific Standard Time, or well, Mountain Standard Time is where I am, but we don't move with the rest of the world when they do daylight savings. So, anyways, ProLUG Annual Technology Conference is coming up. We're going to have these different people talking. Don't let these numbers fool you. We will have a lot more people in there than this. We've done this for a few years now in Discord, and we'll get a few hundred people coming through these events. So the main thing is we've got different people. Jared does data analytics. He's come and talked to the group probably about 10 times now. Kushgara, he messaged me earlier today. Let me make sure he didn't message me again on LinkedIn. He should be coming to talk to you guys. Let's see. Well, he didn't tell me he wasn't coming, so hopefully he is coming. But he's thinking like an attacker. He's got a Linux book on that, and he's going to try to give you guys some insights on that. Looks like more people are interested in that, so that's good. Burninator's going to come. Some of you guys know he's a Space Force major, so he's with the U.S. government, but that's not how he's coming to talk to us in that role. It's just that's what he does. He also works for one of the big contractors as well, because he's National Guard now, but he's Guard for whatever Space Force is. I don't know exactly what they call it, but he's gonna do a security session with a lab for you guys, so you guys can get access to whatever he's got set up. So there's some interesting stuff going on there. He's going to use AI powered CLI for REL security and troubleshooting, so that should be a good one. He's come and talked to us. He came and talked to us last year. People really liked his session, so that should be good. I'm going to give a generalized new version of my general Y engineering session. Normally I kick this off, so normally I'm up here, but Jared needed to go first because he's got to get his kids to football that day. So he's going to go earlier in the day, and I'm going to go later. Both nights, so both Saturday and Sunday night, King Buns is going to run like the late night hangout. So he's going to have some events for you guys and stuff for you to mess around with. He's just going to be kind of the MC. He'll tell stories, play virtual games. People will be hanging out in there, anybody that wants to do that. That's also in the events and meetings channel, so that's something you guys can actually, anybody can talk in there, where it's different than like the conference and speakers channel, where it's like it's more of a directed broadcast, right? Footlong Icicle, how's it going? We're just looking through what's going on this weekend. We're going to have some RHCSA. I don't know exactly, this is a very generic one, but Stovepipe's coming to talk to you guys, and he's going to tell you guys about RHCSA, passing that. He's got some really good study guides on that. He's going to talk on that topic. Then we're going to have systems engineering and AI. This is one of our, he's a member of FANG. So he's one of these guys. He's been systems engineering with them for, I think he just passed 9 years the other day. It might have been 10 though, but I think it was 9. So this is one of our regulars here. And I always speak kind of generically about people's roles, but when they get on, if they want to tell you exactly what they do and who they do it for, I let them kind of do that. Then we're going to have one of my buddies who just got his doctorate a few months ago in economics. He's going to come talk about economics, technology, and AI usage. And he may even show you some of the stuff he's been doing in our servers. So within our set of ProLUG servers, he has a persistent device that is a MCP server for all of his research that he's doing with some other doctors of economics around the world. Actually, one of them's in India, and then I don't know where the other ones are, but I know he's got a few different people with access to that server. So he's going to come and talk to us. His talks are very highly technical, but they're very good to hear from. We're going to have Spiffy and Zero Trust models, so if you want to go learn about that stuff. Man, my thumb is super sore right now. I train this sport, and my thumb is always injured from it. Well, I'm pretty much always injured from it, period, but my thumb is really injured right now. But anyways, he's going to come talk about Spiffy and Zero Trust models, and there's a book that he's going to be talking about. He was a co-author of the book, and he's talked all over on this topic with SANS.org. So he's not coming in that capacity, but I'm telling you guys, he is a speaker for them. And then we're going to have that late night hangout session to just decompress and talk tech, maybe network, talk with some different people, play some, I think they're going to play Jackbox games. That's the plan. So if you guys have ever seen Jackbox games, you can just like take you read your QR code, like he'll put the thing up, and then all of you can play through your phone. So then there's a bunch of different games that you can play. They're actually kind of fun. But everybody can be playing from their own phones at home, and then everybody's watching it almost like a real game show. So it's kind of a fun little thing, and we'll have prizes and stuff for that. I haven't decided exactly what they're going to be, but they'll probably be like gift cards somewhere like Amazon or something, which I think should work for everybody no matter where they're at on planet Earth, but maybe not. Maybe we'll have to work something out. Then there's other events, right? There's always events going on, Bash Study Group and the Linux from Scratch. I'm going to be adding some more events coming up here. People have been wanting more practice with getting into the industry and practice with interviews. Specifically, people like to ask about interview practice, so we'll do some more of that. And I think people will maybe like that. All right, so what else do we have to do? Let me see. I got some messages here. Okay, nothing too crazy there. All right. So what was I going to do today? I have a few things to do. Hey, Radioactive, how's it going? I am looking into, so one of the things I wanted to do was get on, probably on Killer Coda, right? So we use Killer Coda quite a bit around here. We'll go get on Killer Coda. Whoops. Oh. And let's go look at probably my stuff. Oh, it looks like I got to re-log in. Should just be able to log right in with Google. Yeah, there we go. All right, and go into my creator stuff, go into my stuff, go into Linux. And what we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit around in Slurm, right? So we want to get to the tool Slurm. I also need my notepad up because I like to have a notepad up for when I'm doing new stuff. And one of the things I need to do then is we're going to look at installing Slurm on a system. So I'm going to come over here. Let me move this here. And we're going to work on getting some other things set up here. So yeah, let's see if we can't get this all working. All right, I'll make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. And I need to get basically just put some notes together for what I'm working on. I should also move this up and probably this up so I can see your chats. There we go. All right. And that should be fine. All right. Should be able to see. Yeah, that's good. That's good there. I think some of those things are from before. But all right, so we're going to go through here. We're going to run through and we're going to add in and install some Slurm on my different boxes here. So just so I can get it up and running. We're not doing this like a normal lab, so I'm not sitting around and telling you guys how this all works, but you guys can definitely play with it if you want. I'm doing something that's more on this other side here where I'm going to take some notes. Notes for setting up Slurm DB database, right? So we're going to get Slurm up and running, right, on control plane. We'll go install it over on node 01 as well. We're going to do just the full setup of it, and then we're going to work on some of this other parts. Once we've set it up in both places, we got to copy over the munge key so that the munge key is the same between the two of them. If you don't have the munge key correct, they're not going to talk to each other. So that's kind of an important thing to note. All right, do that. So we'll copy that over, restart the munge over there, and then we should be able to copy the answers file in over here. We're not looking at the answers file right now so much, but there are a few things that we've changed in here. And then we're going to copy that over and restart Slurm over there. Restart Slurm over here and restart Slurm over there. Yep. And then we should be able to see that Slurm is running over here. See that the processes are running. Cool. And we can move on to the next part. All right. Again, we're not doing the lab right now, so we're just kind of blowing through it all. We do an S control, see that Slurm is running, but we don't have the database portion of it set up yet. Okay. EPKG -L. Let's make sure that we have. All right, we have the Slurm client. We have the Slurm control daemon. We have the Slurm daemon. We may need let's see if there is another tool here. Hey, 3 Code Warrior, how's it going? We might need to do, so in this one, when we originally did our install here, right here, we may also need Slurm DBD, right? Database daemon. Let's see if that one's already there. That one will get installed. All right. So I need to update that. This will be updated command. Right. Whoops. Well, let's not do that. Let's go here like that. Okay. And I'm just writing out my steps for what's going to be another. So this lab will stay the same. This lab will always just be the Slurm lab. But then we're going to be making another one of them, and we're going to be modifying some things to make it the Slurm database lab, right? Now, along with this, so then we need to install MariaDB. We could use MariaDB, or we could use Postgres. We could use Postgres, but I'm used to MariaDB, and we can harden MariaDB, so we're going to use MariaDB for ours. And our install command for MariaDB tends to look something more like this. It's going to be apt install -y, and then it's going to be MariaDB-server and MariaDB-client. That should be my commands for that. Man. You know, when they say something sticks out like a sore thumb, I mean, it's just, man, my thumb hurts. My wife's like, "Are you going to quit jiu-jitsu?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to quit jiu-jitsu." But it's kind of funny because I know a guy who he trained with us for, God, what did he train with us? Probably about 3 months. And I knew him. I've known him for a long time. And he was like, oh, all into it and all happy. And then his hands started hurting. And he's like, I can't like push my kids on their, on their bikes and stuff. So I got to stop jiu-jitsu. And we're like, oh, come on, man. You gotta power through. Everything hurts. But what can you do? You can't make people love it. All right. So now we're going to have MariaDB on there. Let's make sure it's running. Yep, MariaDB is running. We can also check grep for 3306. That's the default port for MariaDB. We could have also done, there's a whole bunch of things, LSOF-I for port 3306. We could have done this. Whoops. Well, it would help if I kept them together. That would work. We could have also done LSOF-P for the port of, the process ID of 8676, and that would have told us, well, that would have also told us that MySQL was running and listening on the port 3306. So there's a lot of other things going on. grep 43306, and we would see, huh, well, maybe we wouldn't see it right there. We should see the, well, we see all the libraries it's holding open, but we should see the, I guess we won't see it there. All right, but anyways, we'll see it on the other stuff. We'll see it on the open ports for sure, right? So install it, make sure it's running. Right, and that's something like LSO. Well, let's just do system CTL status MariaDB, right? And then something to the effect of you can typically get away with LSOF. You just do SSNTULP for Maria, right? That'll work too. That should show you MariaDB is running. And it's listening on port 3306, but only on this machine. It's only listening from this address, which is, it's not really that much of a security thing, but it is the point that the service only listens to this system. It's not listening to any. So if let's say this server needed to be able to accept connections from other systems and be able to read the database for some reason, then we would have to change that configuration, because this configuration only listens on the local, for the local IP address to connect. That's the 127.0.0.1 is a local TCP IP thing, right? Okay, so anyways, we're good on that. Let's pull this up and let's go here. Our next thing we're going to do, as we're kind of setting this up, is we're going to go in and we're going to modify MySQL DB if we needed to configure it, but we're probably going to be okay with that part for now. We've turned on the database service, so the database is already running. Let's go in then with MySQL -u root -p. If we had a password, we would put in a password here, but we should be able to just get away with MySQL. If you just run this command on most of these before you harden them, it'll just drop you in with no password. So let's say configure slurm in MariaDB, and it would look something like this. So MySQL. And then in here, we're going to do like the basic configurations of that Slurm is going to be looking for. So we're going to do something like a create. Should be create and then database, because there's some basic little databases, but nothing that's going to work for us. And they want it, it needs to be called Slurm account DB, like that. That's what we expect to use. So I'm going to throw this right here. And I'm going to say, I'm just going to draw it like this because that's the way that the command prompts are actually going to look for us. And then we're going to need to give a user, and they have to be identified by a password, right? And then give them whatever permissions. So we're going to say create. By the way, database password or database commands don't actually have to be in caps, but we just do that. It's kind of like a little bit of a convention that's kind of common. We're going to do user, and we're going to say slurm at localhost. Now, we could do this a bunch of different ways. We could add a bunch of different prefixes and all this stuff, but we're just going to do it like this. By, right? So by. Again, they don't have to be caps, but let's say, and let's do something super simple to remember. Slurm. Whoops. Slurm 1234. I know that's like the worst password ever, but that's the password we're going to give it. Okay. That's just going to be our little silly password for now. We'll go grab this and put it over here. And then from there, we're going to give it some more. So we're going to say grant all privileges. Privileges should be spelled right. On slurm ACCT DB, right? To, and it should be everything. So db dot everything like that. And then we're going to say to, and we're going to give it that slurm at localhost, right? and then we're going to drop that. It's always weird for me. I'm not used to doing that semicolon at the end of everything. We'll grab that. Right. And then the next thing we need to do is we'll just flush privileges. And then that'll be good. And then we'll exit. So, flush privileges, exit. Put my notes right here. Oops. And then exit. Right. All right. So we got a capture of pretty much all of our commands for that part. And then now we need to make sure that we have slurm dbd installed. So ppkg-l grep for slurm dbd, right? Is that right? dbd, like that. Not to be mistaken with the game dbd, right? Does everybody know what that is? Oh, Simon's on doing leak codes. Good. All right, so we got slurm dbd on there, just like that. And it's not, yep, that's the way we want it. And now we're going to go modify our slurm dbd conf file. So we're going to vi etc slurm. We've only got a slurm conf. We don't have our slurm dbd conf. Right? And in here, we're going to have to give it some basic settings. And I'm going to drop in some settings that I have from my notes. So you guys might notice that I'm using my notes. I'm going to go ahead and drop it just like this here. And all of these settings should be exactly the same as we already have them. But I need to put my secure password here, which is going to be slurm1234, right? That's my very simple slurm. And these are all of the settings that we could then validate if we wanted to. But for right now, we're just going to grab these and we're going to say setup, configure the slurm database DB service. First part of that is going to be vi etc slurm dbd.conf, right? Is it dbconf? dbd-conf, yeah. Let's say add these lines. Control Z. Damn it. Could have sworn that would automatically. That's fine. We can just tab them in, it's fine. Well, actually, you know what? Just because I hate what happens when we paste later, I'm just going to leave them like that all the way over on the left. Because when you're pasting out a notepad, it's not pretty if you have spaces or tabs in there. It can cause all kinds of other problems. So we're just going to leave it like that for now. I'm going to right quit the file. And I should then, if I have the service running, it is inactive dead, which makes sense. Hey, how's it going, Peach Supplied? Yeah, I've been doing pretty good. I haven't been streaming as often because I've been kind of working on my dissertation, and man, I've just got so many things going on. But this right here, what I'm doing is actually very important to work that I'm doing for work. I'm training some of our HPC admins, and I'm showing them around some of the stuff. So I'm kind of writing up from my notes and building out this lab. So that's what I'm doing now. If anybody's wondering, I'm kind of doing work stuff, but I'm showing you guys what I'm doing because it's kind of like extra hours, if you want to think of it like that. Like I tell you guys, when you're a salaried employee, when you work as an engineer, your minimum hours a week are probably about 45. So, you know, some people are like, I only get paid for 40. Well, I'm going to be honest, engineers work more than whatever, but they tend to get compensated pretty well. So I'm working over my 45 right now, but I'm also getting to hang out with you guys. I'm getting to tell you guys about our Discord and tell you guys about our events this weekend. There's going to be a lot of people there. A lot of people talking about Linux and different jobs and that kind of stuff. So, you know, my goal is to get you guys doing this stuff. So I try to bring people that are, you know, success stories in the industry, but I want you guys to see kind of like the attitudes and things that these people bring to it. Okay, so we should be able to, I believe, start up the service. Oh, we do have to give some permissions to this. So etc slurmdbd.conf, we're going to change the ownership of it to slurm and slurm. for Etsy Slurm DBD.com. And that really kind of scares me that doesn't exist. Oh, because I spelled it wrong. Slurm, not slurb. All right, and then we're gonna change the change mod on it to 600, so they're the only ones that can read it. Right, tab's our friend. So we're gonna grab these notes here, and we're gonna throw them in over here. So boom. Well, it would help if I, and then we can pull that all off of there as well. Boom. All right. And we know what those commands do, so we don't have to put notes for them necessarily. Cygama, is the Ubuntu desktop sufficient for learning? I think so. I tell people, like, if you're trying to get, like, let's say you don't do any Linux right now, right? And you want to get into doing Linux, any command line that you start doing right now is probably good. It's probably, I mean, it would be like if you said, hey, Scott, I don't know how to swim at all, but I got a little pool. And I'd be like, well, go get in that pool and start just, you know, dog paddling in the shallow end. You're going to learn more by doing that than these other things. Is it what we're really going to probably hang out in and do, you know, professionally? Ubuntu Canonical is growing. Like, they are allowed in government projects now. I haven't seen Ubuntu run in government projects, but I've seen Ubuntu run out in the world. So it is there. But I would tell you that, you know, if you're not doing anything, just get your hands on it. I know Cygama, you're probably doing some Linux. But yeah, if the and then that's the other part of it is as it's kind of like, if you guys have ever seen how we teach kids programming with like, scratch.mit.edu, if you guys have ever seen Little Scratchy Cat, and we can teach kids how to program without having to learn syntax. And you say, really? And you're like, yeah, all we do is we make them put together these little things that look like Lego bricks, and they understand the logic of the thing, but they don't have to learn all this syntax and stuff, right? And that has been proven to be a more effective way, because a lot of people stumble over the syntax. You don't get this stuff all to work, and you're like, I'll never do a database again, I guess that's too hard. Well, this stuff in and of itself is just, this is just some gobbledygook that we can have, you know, AI tell us about nowadays, or we can go find on Stack Overflow for the last 20 years. But what I want to do is I want to make a database, I want to make a user, I want to give them some permissions, and then I can go ask the question if I understand. Does that kind of make sense? So yes, I do think Ubuntu is perfectly fine for learning, especially when your focus is like high performance compute or something like this, where I'm not necessarily like digging in on, you know, what we're doing with it, right? Like if you ever go do a computer science course, some of you guys have done computer science, you know, it's like they don't teach you anything at first about what you're going to be doing out in the real world. They're just like, okay, this is like how the bits are actually written into the registers, and you're like, all right, you know, and then they're like, okay, and this is a while loop, and this is a for loop, and this is the way that we do things, and you're like, oh, okay. Oh, now I got to use that, like those little building blocks to like build these big cathedrals and stuff. And you're like, yeah, that's where you're going with it. But we had to start way over here. Fisherman. Oh man. Fisherman, have you seen my posts in Discord? Have you been tracking today? Fisherman's one of my mods down in Discord as well. He's not talking this year, but he's talked in previous years, I believe. All right, so let's start this now. So we can do it in one command. We can say system CTL. So I'll show you guys something that I like to do. If I'm building a service for the first time, I'll do a system CTL start of the service, right? Start it. And then I'll do a status on it to make sure it started, right? Nothing broke. It turned on, right? Whether or not this is good, it's at least turned on. And that's a good start. That's better than we've had maybe in previous times that I've worked on this. But we've got it started. And now, if I wanted this to be persistent through reboots, then I do my system CTL enable, right? System slurm DVD. And once I do that, it's going to go and it's going to write the symbolic links so that it's started. And then if I look at the status again, I'll see over here that it's enabled. Earlier when I did it, it was not enabled. Unless it was already enabled. Oh, it was already set to be enabled. So, okay, that's fine. It was set to be enabled, but it wasn't turned on by default in the system. So I like to do that. I do that two things. Oh, let's also run real quick Sturm status dbd. Let's see. It's having a problem. Var run. It's having a problem with this PID with the permission being denied. So it's actually having an error. So let's go play with that PID real quick. That process. It's very possible that file that we have is not permissioned for it. So let's go look at this real quick. Let's just do an ls-l on it. We control shift v it. No file. Okay, well, so it's touch var run slurm dvd.pid, right? And then ls-l it, and it's owned by root. So we're probably going to do that same that shown that we did earlier, right? We're probably going to do that for var run slurm dvd.pid, and then we're probably going to do the chmod. And on this one, it's going to be 700 because it's a PID file, so it's going to have to be able to write to it. And let's do that as well. Now let's restart the service. Oops, not status. Let's restart it. Yeah, you guys, some of you know I'll press up a million times before I status. It's a corrupt PID file. Possible corrupt PID file. Var run slurm dbd PID. Can't drop supplementary groups. Yeah, it says it's running. Let's go see. We'll do some accounting and see if it's running. That'll be important as well. Adds and back. Yeah. That's the thing. Oh, let me move this over here real quick. I'm not actually able to see what's going on. Yeah, how's it going, Quartz One and Manny Presh with the Prime? I appreciate that as well. Keeps me motivated, but also it will allow you to not have to watch ads for a while, so that's kind of cool. Let me see what I'm doing here. So I have the service up. I have everything running. And now I'm going to... Oh, let's go fix those lines then real quick. So configure that service. We did that chmod. Let's do a history real quick and grab these other commands we needed. So we're going to say that we just touch that file. Right? Boom. That's fine. Touch it. And then we did our change ownership for it. Oops. And we're going to change the mode of it as well. Boom. And then we want to do a systemctl. We're going to do our start and our enable of slurm dbd after that. So that start and enable that we had done, we want to do after that now. So, right. Now, if this is running, right, there's at least one other thing we still need to do, which is we need to set up the slurm configuration, vi etsy slurm.conf, right? We got to go look at this configuration, and we have to configure in here the accounting portion. So down here in our accounting portion, we do not have this set currently to do any accounting the way that we want to. So what we're going to do is we're going to add our storage configuration here. We are going to add in these lines here. Again, I'm grabbing these out of my notes. I'm going to just drop them right here. And we are going to use our host name on this box, which is control plane. And that resolves via the host file or DNS, but in our case, the host file. And then these other things down here, this is the end of basically this configuration that we're dropping in for right now. This is the configuration that we're adding in for right now. So once we've done this, so add, we'll go ahead and do, this is still part of configuration, so I'll just say this here. pi slurm.conf. And in here, I'll drop it over here. There's our configuration files. Maybe I'll say add these lines to the slurm.conf file. Okay. Now, if we've done that, then the last thing we're going to need to do is restart the slurm ctld service. So that's the last thing we should have to do here. So escape :wq system ctl status slurm ctld, right? We see it running, but we've changed the config, so we need it to reread the config. And now we should see the status, and it should be running, right? And we should be able to see that it's reading and doing all the things that it needs to over here. Yep. All right. So if this is all working, right? If this is up and we see everything working as we expect, that command is system ctl restart ctld, right? That's the command we need. Hopefully I'm not missing anything too much. I don't think I'm missing anything in chat. Oh, I missed something here. Sorry, guys. I apologize. I got to go back up and look. I missed something. Oh, Peach Supplied, you said you're having some problems with your thing. No, but that's not what I'm not getting. It's not getting YouTube right now. I apologize, guys. Let me see here. Is this not logged in on YouTube? My chat should be showing me YouTube stuff, and it is not. All right. I apologize. YouTube, you said, honest question for career path. Just finished LPIC 1, halfway through CCNA. What should I focus on next for SRE, DevOps, sysadmin role? You were thinking Terraformer. Okay. Yeah, I apologize for missing that. Nothing, Jay. But I would tell you, so I haven't been in an SRE role, but I'm supporting SREs all the time. And I guess in some ways, Linux kind of blends over. Linux DevOps, you know, it's kind of all blends into a lot of that stuff. Terraform's great. If you tell me, you know, you want to get into any of those things and you're going to be working at a company that you know has a solid amount of servers already built, I don't think you can go wrong with Ansible, right? I don't think there's anything wrong with doing Ansible type stuff. If you're just saying, you know, straight up the next type of thing, you mentioned learning Terraform next. I think Terraform is a great thing to learn too. But I've been telling people, start looking at jobs that you are maybe interested in and see what technologies companies are running, because some companies aren't running Terraform. You know, I went and got, some of you guys know, if you were around back in 2022, I went and got a Terraform certification just to learn about it a little bit. And then I went in the next day and I was in this meeting, and I was the Linux, at the time I was the Linux engineering lead. And then we had this team meeting with our teams, mostly like our middleware team and some of our different software teams. And then they were like, oh, you know what? This is too much of a hassle. We're not even going to use Terraform. We'll just stick with Ansible. And I was like, I've been using Ansible forever, right? So I'll just, okay, like don't threaten me with a good time. I'm fine with Ansible. But anyways, let's go back here and move this over a little bit so this doesn't pop out. Yeah, but I would just tell you, keep sticking with whatever you are working on. You said you've done LPIC and you're doing CCNA. Some of you guys know I had a CCNA. I passed that back in 2002, but I didn't love networking. So like, if I were to do it again, I probably wouldn't have went the CCNA route first. But for you, if you're already doing it, you know, that is a good one for learning for sure. Although CCNA goes a lot deeper than DevOps and SRE people normally go. They don't normally touch the routers as much. Let's see. Let's do over here. Let's check our just sinfo, right? Is Slurm running? Yes. And then we got to actually start our cluster for the first time. So we're going to say, what's our what's our other commands here? Control show config. That's the command we already had. And we're going to go grab the exact name of our cluster, which should be ProLUG. believe that's what I called it. Configuration settings. If it doesn't say it right here, cluster name, ProLUG cluster. That's what we called it. Okay. I wanted that because then we're going to run this sacctmgr command. And we're going to add the cluster ProLUG. You're not running supported account storage plugin, only account storage. Oh. So let's go look at this. That's a good little note here. We may have to change accounting storage Slurm DVD. That is the one that we're running. Oh, you know what? I probably have a. I know. I think I know what happened here. Yeah, so look, I moved all this down and I didn't get rid of this one. So let me just comment that out and then say job type. Let's make sure there's no other. We're just going to go like this to make sure there's nothing else that conflicts. So there was a conflict. That's my fault. I didn't catch it. I'm going to grab this here and say yeah. So that's that. You guys see the conflict. I wanted this one, but I had this later in the config. So let's go restart our service. And then let's validate that the service is running. Yep, it's running. We'll go do our show config to see that it's there. Good. And then we'll do our... not adding. Okay, good. Well, that's fine. I'm fine with that. And then we'll say add in the cluster to the Slurm DVD accounting, or yeah, that's fine. May see a message that it's already added. That's fine, right? Then what we can do is we can start to test a little bit with the account manager. We should be able to see the cluster and see what's being done on it, what's happening in that cluster. Okay, good. So now once we have these commands, right? This is half of what I wanted to do today, as far as this goes with setting up Slurm database daemon, right? We've got that part running, right? ProLUG cluster. There's a bunch of things that are kind of showing up there. We could move this over now. We could rerun that, and this is the stuff that we know about the cluster. Now I could start submitting jobs to the cluster. We know how to do that through our commands that we have in here. So if you wanted to do this and just run commands in the cluster, that's kind of like this next part. What I do need to see is sinfo-n, sinfo-n. So I see both of the nodes are still in the cluster. So I should be able to push jobs against both of them right now if I wanted to. And srun host name against one, srun host name against two. So srun is working. That is this is a synchronous way of running. Typically, jobs are kicked off in the high performance compute clusters in what we call asynchronous mode or batch mode, right? That's not really germane to what we're doing right here, but that's something that's in this lab. So if anybody's like, hey, I want to do that first part of the lab, not the part that I'm working on, I'll give you guys a link to that right here. This is the lab. Although it's interesting, that's only popping up on the Twitch side. Let me see. Maybe let me close this all out. Maybe this stupid tool is having some type of problem. Let me close the whole tool out real quick. Tool's called StreamerBot. It's a pretty good little tool, but it's having some kind of problem refreshing my YouTube. So let's see if it'll pull up the chat now. It's got this chat. go test over on YouTube. That thing is not connecting. I wonder if I'm missing something. It was working even up to the other day. Oh, maybe I gotta says streamer bot's there. Oh, maybe it's back. Let's test. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, good. I just wanted to, because, you know, I don't want to be missing chat from one side or the other. Plus, you guys can see what's going on there. All right. What else? All right. So we got the accounting part of this set up, and that's good. But now that we have the database set up, there's a couple things we can do. We can write this up as a new lab. So this is going to be a new lab. But the other part of this, and we only have 23 minutes left on this lab. The other thing we can do with this is we can turn this whole install into an Ansible playbook. That could be a thing we do as well. And the reason we would want to turn the whole install to an Ansible playbook is this setup that I just, you know, spent 30 something minutes doing. I could just push a button and deploy with Ansible, right? And just have it ready. And then the part that I actually care about for this next lab, so this was like right here. This is like the end of the accounting lab. Accounting. Right? That's what that is. But then the next one is monitoring lab. And if you guys have never seen, right, some of you are probably like, man, I've never seen Slurm. I've never seen this database for sure. This is where you go. Once you have the database set up and you've got accounting set up, this is where this starts to be really useful, right? Because like this is okay useful, and this is probably just a big old hot mess on most people's screens. I mean, I look at a much smaller screen when I'm working, right? Than I'm kind of displaying to you guys. But what this is super powerful is I can come up here and I can go to Grafana dashboards. And what I can do with Grafana dashboards is I can go find a dashboard for Slurm. There's a bunch of Slurm dashboards out here. And I can go get a Slurm dashboard where if I can feed the data from this system out to Prometheus, right? If I can get, now that I have the Slurm database set up, I can hook up the Prometheus exporter, which is just another tool like Node Exporter, and that wants to feed data over into a Prometheus server. So now I got to get Prometheus up. Then I can do something like this with my dashboards. And this one's bright, so this one doesn't look as good, but this one in dark mode actually looks really nice. I've seen this one work pretty well in dark mode, but it's all the nodes. How many nodes do you have up, down, idle? So, you know, management comes to you. So again, you're looking at a tool like Slurm, and it's all of your cluster being maintained by this job scheduler, right? So you're keeping all the Linux boxes working, but how much work is actually going in and what teams are doing stuff with it? Well, here we can see how many nodes are up and ready to do work at any given time right here. So here's your nodes. You've got allocated nodes, completing nodes, idle nodes. And a lot of times in clusters, we don't want a lot of stuff to be idle, right? If you have your cluster sitting 50% idle, that's just a big data center turning electricity into heat, right? That's not great. How many drain error nodes do we have in a bad state? This is a big one right here. How many running versus completed jobs do we have? And over the last month, management and your higher up IT management is going to want to see how many jobs have been running. And I think I've told you guys, like, I've done this for multiple large colleges and different government projects over the years. And in my last government, my last college project that I did was with a big college in the Northwest here. And we had about 5,000 students that could be kicking jobs off. We had professors and their different like graduate research teams. We had a massive cluster that was just doing all this work, but we could keep track of how much was being done. That's what that database is for. Because otherwise, Slurm is just sitting there ready to take jobs from anybody. But now we can have accounting in there, and then we can do auditing with that. We can also start to limit down what any one team can do for research or for resources and that kind of stuff. But this is a really good tool right here. So my point is, this is why we set that all up, so that we can do accounting and tracking what's going on in our system. Because again, like, how are you going to do capacity planning if you don't know how much your stuff's being used? You're just going to go in and listen to the hum of the servers, right? I mean, now I say that jokingly, but there are a couple of so I work in a data center out of Phoenix. I probably go there a couple times a month, right? But I work out of this data center, and I work on a big NOAA project in the back of the data center. But I also work for another customer up near the front, and we always call them internally to my company the customer that shall not be named, because we don't have a public relationship with them. We work for them on the back end. But I can walk by their data center. They've got a very small little data hall, and they've got only like maybe 10 or 12 racks in there. Not a big cluster. But I always know when they're working, because their servers are just singing in there. It's like a chorus of just hums and bells and whistles. Saint Advice, how's it going? I am just kind of hanging out and working through some lab stuff, making labs. This is kind of like, this is work stuff, but I'm showing it to you guys. I always show you guys stuff like very generically, right? Like, you couldn't take this and go like, oh, I know exactly what Scott's doing. Like, this is just the generic setup for a Slurm database service, right? And I was using some notes that I had and some things that are available online to set this up. And then if you guys were around, you saw me set it up right now inside of a Killer Coda lab. And this is going to be a lab that I set up on top of our normal Slurm lab. So I'm using the Slurm lab right now, and I'm going to modify this lab, make a new version of it to be able to do Slurm database accounting. But again, that's only so interesting, because then you're like, well, I didn't really know what Slurm was doing before this, and I don't really have any cool jobs to kick off. But then we can take this Slurm database and we can throw all this data over into this graphical tool, which most of you very quickly could go, number goes up or number goes down. And you could say, well, even a manager can understand that, right? So like, I tell you guys often, like, we do stuff at the command line as admins and engineers, right? We build stuff here. But this isn't, I can't like walk around and be like, all right, manager, when you go in that meeting, type these commands in the terminal. They would just look at me like, I can't say the way I used to say it. Let's just say they would look at me like I had something strange growing out of my forehead. Let's say a horn on my forehead. Yeah, let's just say that. That's the way I used to say it when I was younger, but I was much more graphic about it. But the point is, like, nobody would, like, I'm not saying they can't do it. They just don't focus on that stuff, right? Like, they're managers, right? No, Manny, for this, for this lab, we're going to put Prometheus on the same server and Grafana on the same server. In fact, in my training of the users internal, so this is part of this is going for some internal training that we're doing. I've kind of standardized, like, and by the way, I standardize according to this. I'm going to show you guys on Excalidraw, which is just a fantastic tool. If you guys like a free tool, Excalidraw is great. I actually pay them because I like their tool so much. But they are free. And hopefully they have my data. Oh, here's my stuff. If you guys have never seen, this is how Slurm works. But over here, this is the NIST 800-223, right? NIST 800-223. This is the reference model that I build clusters to. This is the model that I show people, like, I show customers this so I'm not a sales guy, right? I'm an engineer. So when they bring me in, and when they've brought me in over the years, it's always to do the technical side of things, right? That's what people want me for, or you know, that's like, give the people what they want. If my manager has me around, it's for technical stuff. And oh, did I draw a line over that? Let me get that out of the way, because that doesn't belong there right now. I was showing frames. That's why the frames are there. But right here, you can see, you know, we could talk to any individual part of this. Like, if I wanted to talk about security, I'd be talking in this area right here. If I wanted to be talking about what we're doing right here with Slurm, we're doing Slurm, which is a scheduler where users get into the login node, and then they can schedule jobs with the scheduler, and that goes and submits the work out into the compute nodes, right? That's kind of the whole point of all this. Wait, I'm missing some stuff. Oh, in a work environment, we always in modern Linux environments and modern compute clusters and everything in general, we do, because of virtualization and because of the fact that each individual server should be used for just one thing. Yes. So if I was building an architecture, so Manny, to your question, and we were building all this, it would absolutely be the scheduler would be its own thing. The monitoring systems would be their own things. The aggregation tools that we're using would be their own thing. Yes, they would not be on their same, because when maintenance comes around and we want to reboot a service or do that kind of stuff, the old days of what we used to do was called like a lamp stack: Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP, or whatever different tool you had on top of it. And we used to put them all in the same one, and then when one of them needs to go down, we need to bring them all down. And it's just, we don't do a lot of that stuff anymore. Now you got your front end web servers, you got your app servers, you've got your back end storage or database servers often. And yeah, they would all be, in fact, Slurm and the database server for Slurm will often be on different servers as well, depending on the load. This is just a test cluster, so it's all going to be on the same one. It's just going to be scheduler like this. But this is like a generic placeholder for more hardware that you would probably have. Yeah. And I know I mentioned virtualization, but a lot of times this is not virtualized. These are still bare metal servers in the compute section, because that's all about speed. Hold on. Somebody said, I wonder where I can know about PowerEdge R7 Real Series power usage. So I've seen some tools out there over the years. I don't do a lot of data center power, right? I know the draw of my systems on a power diagram typically, but I don't plan a lot of that. Like, I don't architect that. But for home use, if you're talking like home use and you've got like a lab with like some racks or something, I've seen some pretty cool. People will have sometimes. Well, if you have a UPS, you can use that, and a lot of times that'll track how much usage is coming through and the draw and that kind of stuff. But I've also seen there's little tools that you can put on, and then they have Wi-Fi, and they'll send you statistics of how much your servers are drawing. I never got into that, but I have been downsizing my environment and just going to, like in my home lab. Some of you guys know, I'm mostly just working off of one big Proxmox server now. I do have a couple of other servers still sitting in there, but we've already decommissioned 2 of the 4 that we've always had. So we've been like, I've got a lot less power drawn out of that other room than I have recently. But on topic though, back on topic, we're building out a lab that's a portion of this scheduler right here. And the scheduler can be Slurm, it can be Platform LSF, it can be what's the one we use? We use one at NOAA called oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank on it. It's all the B subs. God, why am I drawing a blank on that right now? The tool is called, I literally just trained users on this a couple weeks ago. Oh, and then I took a vacation, so I've forgotten everything now. Oh, that's gonna piss me off if I can't think of what our scheduler's called. Kind of want to pull that stupid doc up just to see. Hold on. HPC schedulers. That's gonna piss me off. Oh, PBS. God, I was saying Slurm and I was saying Platform LSF, which is IBM's LSF, and I couldn't remember PBS Pro. And PBS Pro, the funny thing about it is still open source, even though it's called Pro. Normally, Pro versions aren't open source, but PBS Pro is. So, but yeah, I mean, and then in this course that I've been prepping for the guys, and we've been going through it, we're setting up all of these different functions in different ways within our internal Redline labs, right? I'm showing this very generically out here, but this is and this is for a this is specifically for an Ubuntu environment, but on them we're using Rocky, so I'll have to switch these 2 configs here, or the apt is going to be DNF instead, and the names of the services. These services are the same, but these are slightly different right here. So this is MariaDB, and then this is MariaDB client. I don't think, well, there might be a dash server on that. I'm not sure. Home lab now, and BIOS setting and fan control. Maybe I'm missing something. No, Saint Device, if it were me, I wouldn't want to I wouldn't try to track that stuff out of an individual box. I would track that before it in whatever, you know, in line with whatever's being drawn through it. That's the way I'm used to thinking about that stuff. Dell iDRAC will install, yeah, power usage. That's true. That's true, Saint Device. You could use something like that. Well, and if it says you're using Dell R7 series, so yeah, if you're using the iDRAC, you can definitely pull that. And then there's tools out there that like Redfish and other stuff that'll make that easier for you. There's actually things that'll scrape that as well into Prometheus if you want. But that's something, yeah, that's something to play with. I'm used to using, Hector, how's it going? Thanks for the bits. I'm used to using for that kind of stuff. A lot of times I'll have the like the smart racks in my data centers. Then they'll just already be there, and then we can just typically, we've got an IP to them and we can pull stats out of that, and we just feed it all over into Prometheus and Grafana anyways, and then we get something, you know, something that looks nice. So what I got to do with this then is I need to, what is this? This is out of Loki. We can grab stuff out of Loki. Loki would be a good one to do as well. So let me see. What let's see what logs this one's looking at. Yeah, this is just pulling out of whatever Slurm logs you have. Okay, this one wouldn't be hard to make anyways, but this is good. So I like again, I told you guys I like to steal these. These are the two that I'm used to using right here. And this one needs the Slurm exporter, and the Slurm exporter gets installed here. So this is how you install the Slurm exporter. That one should be pretty good. And this is what it'll pull out of all the status of the jobs. And it pulls it directly from SQ. So over here, right? It'll tell you whatever jobs are running in there. It also should be able to pull, yeah, it pulls the scheduler information as well. So it can tell you anything that's going on there. There's a DBD agent as well. I've always had this all set up together, but it looks like it'll also check this as well. So it'll check the DBD agent as well. So, and it'll tell us the state of nodes, which is all good too. Okay, so we're going to be adding all this stuff into what we've already been working on today. So here's my notes. By the way, guys, I always take notes like this, and I always take them, go and I throw them in our notes section. So if you're ever looking for things that I've done in Discord, I'll say, this is the notes for setting up the Slurm DVD lab, right? I always throw notes down here so you guys have them, right? Because sometimes people are like, hey, I want the notes from the lab. There's all the things I just did. Now, there were other things that happened with this lab, and it'll make it into the version when I go and I, you know, you guys know how I edit labs if you've been around. I'll take this Slurm one, I'll copy it down. I'll probably do like 106.1 or something, and it'll be install Slurm accounting, right? And then I'll set that one up. And then I'll do another one after it, which will be those first two, but I'm probably just going to run as an Ansible playbook. So it comes up right at the beginning of the lab. And then you've got 55 minutes or so after it configures everything to do the portion, which will be Prometheus, setting up Prometheus, Slurm exporter, right? Setting up the Slurm exporter that we're about to do here. And then Grafana, right? Getting a Grafana dashboard up. So those will be our next little pieces there. I'm not going to build that right now. I'm just getting my notes together for this right now. But that'll be for the monitoring lab. It'll be all the things from the first two labs then, right? And then we'll be doing Prometheus setup. So how do we get this? We steal it from my other lab, right? So we just steal Prometheus shamelessly from the other lab. We'll do Loki setup, steal from my other lab, right? Because we're just going to shamelessly steal that as well. And we can write up those steps if we want right now, but I'm just kind of writing this out as I want it. Slurm setup, Slurm exporter setup, and this is going to be from right here. So here's our steps for installing our Slurm exporter, right? Well, this is where we're going to get our steps for our Slurm exporter. We should see installation right here, and we should just download this. Yeah, we're just going to set up the systemd file. It's going to look something like this. Prometheus Slurm exporter under user bin Prometheus Slurm exporter, and then we just need to download the package. Where's the package at? Yep, and we can just get the, where's that at? Might need Go. Snap packaging. I'll have to figure out how to use Snap. I haven't built this in a while. When did I do this? I did this about 2.5 years ago, and some of you guys know my brain doesn't remember things that long anymore. So we should be able to fix it up though. This is where we're getting it from right here. So we'll be able to figure that out when it comes time for that. Download the setup, or let's say setup the Grafana. Oh, we need to install Grafana. Steal from my other lab, right? And then we'll say install Grafana dashboards. And those are going to be, not that one. Did I lose them all? This will be my Slurm dashboard for this one. And then the Loki one I also kind of want, which is this one. And then we'll be able to point that on the back end. So whatever we send, so we can send whatever we want into Loki. Oh, well, for that, we're probably going to use Alloy then. So let's do that up here as well. We'll fix our numbering later. Install Alloy and configure to ship off Slurm logs. Okay, let's fix our numbering because that'll bug me. Oh gosh, there we go. All right, and then, well, up here, set up everything to this point with Ansible, right? So we'll just set up everything in the monitoring lab so that we don't have to do so. And you might say, well, Scott, why when you're showing us how to do Slurm, if you could have just done it with Ansible, didn't you just show us that? Well, it would be the same thing as like if I was going to tell you guys the history of World War II, and I said, well, there was this guy, and he was a kid, and he did some painting, and then one thing led to another, and then we defeated them in World War II. And you'd be like, well, what the fuck? That was the worst storytelling I've ever heard in my life. And I'd be like, well, yeah, that's true. But I just wanted to get to the point. We won. And you'd be like, well, that's not great. Well, Ansible's kind of like that. If we just run things through Ansible, but you're trying to pick up and learn the stuff, you got to walk through it, right? You got to walk through it the same way. It'd be the same thing like if we went to the gym and I'm like, all right, we're going to go pick up all these weights. We're going to do that for a couple hours and then we're going to feel stronger when we're done. And then you're like, well, I got this forklift over here that'll just lift it all for us. Where do you want it? And I'm like, yeah, but it's not going to do, it's not going to do what we want. Well, so that's why we broke this all down. Yeah, this can be a playbook, right? What happened? Compute newbie, how much time will it take to be employable? I don't know how long it'll take the average person, but what I do try to tell people is you got to get started for sure, right? The first thing is get started. So what I think, I mean, I can run you guys through real quick if you guys want to say. I only got a little bit longer till the wife gets home. So let me just, this is what I think you guys should do to get started. I'll run you guys through something here real quick. It's called we'll go through this one quick. Where's it at? Some of you guys would be like, oh God, Scott's going to his talks. Yeah, I know, but I always fall back on my talks. Where's this thing at? I got all my talks over here and I don't have my... Ah, here it is right here. This one is called Twitch Excelling in the Engineering Field for... and normally when I give this talk... by the way, hold on, I'll put your chats back up here. Hold on, where's chat at? Put chat up here so I don't miss anything. This will get kind of messy though, so let me just put chat over here out of the way somewhere. Chat can be... How's that? Does that work for chat? There, boom. It'll be behind my head a little bit. All right. So this originally I gave to my college students. I do give this talk to my college students still. But now, because I'm giving it to anybody, I have this little thing that comes over that says for anyone. Oh, here we go. That's like going super slow. There it is, for anyone, right? And this is my thoughts on getting you into the industry. If you tell me my desire is to do this stuff, this is the thing that I always give you guys. Because again, yeah, I only have a few more minutes. And by the way, these are all up in the Discord. They're in the presentations channel. So if anybody needs these things or any of the things that I'm going to reference, random quote to get you interested: education is not the filling of the pail, but the lighting of a fire. Like I used to think, oh, I just can't wait till I get done with school so I never have to learn again. But you have to stay at that level for the rest of your life. So if you go to college, the more college you do, the more you have to stay on top of that stuff, right? And that's the thing nobody tells you, especially in the tech world, man. 100% in the tech world, that's a big thing. So here's my point to kind of get you guys interested. If you tell me I want to be an engineer, now most of us start out as admins before we become engineers, and I kind of have a little drawing that looks like this to show you guys for that. Let me just open this recent drawing here. In our Linux systems administration, I sometimes show you guys this, which is this comes from Cisco, but it's the PPDIO methodology, where we prepare, plan, design, implement, operate, and optimize systems. This is how all IT systems kind of work. They originally designed this for networking systems, but this is true of all systems. It's called the PPDIO deployment methodology. It's a Cisco thing, but it works for everybody. And Linux, you're probably going to start as a sysadmin, and you're probably going to be working on systems that people have already built. I'm just going to I'm going to spitball a guess here that 99.5% of people that ever get into this work get in on systems that somebody's already built, especially nowadays when there's thousands and thousands and maybe even millions of Linux boxes out there. So what do? You operate servers to start. You're a help desk, you're a security operations center, you're a network operations center, and you're doing what we call keep the lights on. These are the operations you're doing as an admin. Now, I'm talking about engineering in this other one, but I'm saying as an admin, your goal is to be able to keep the lights on in the organization, keep the processes running that make the business money, right? And then as you do that, and I tell people, if you want to get into engineering and you're an admin, you start to think about optimizing these systems. How do I do it better? How do I keep having these documentation problems because all the documents are old. I just start fixing them. Late at night, I'm working. I find a problem. I fix it in the documentation. I send a note to the team. I say, hey, I found this weekend, this and this. It's not like you're doing this. You're not just patting yourself on the back. You're showing like how you're making the system better. Right? And early on in your career, it's not about optimizing the systems often. It's about optimizing the processes that you and the team are doing to keep those systems running. Because your teams, your IT teams that you guys are going to get on in the field, the number one KPI, key performance indicator of how well that team is doing, is you're going to have one metric that they judge you on, and that's uptime of the system. Uptime, yeah, keep the lights on. Keeping the lights on. Keep everything going. All right. So anyways, then you get over here into engineering. But this is what they want us for. This is what they want you even as an admin for if you're starting out, is we deal in truth, right? Our utility, or utility is a marketing function that adds value, right? Our utility or value added to a company is directly related to what we know and how quickly we can get to the correct answer. This is what I think engineers do all day. Our currency is truth. And you say, Scott, how do you know that? Like whatever. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, if I'm working, I got a team of I have probably about 16 other engineers I work with on this project for NOAA. And if people ask me questions and I constantly give them bad answers or just bullshit that's not real in the system, I'm very quickly going to find that nobody asks me for things anymore. No project managers ask me for things. No managers ask me for things. None of my teammates ask me for things. Everything you do as an engineer is grounded in like a verifiable truth about the system, right? So if you know that that's your value and that's what people want you for and that's what they hire you for, then what does the work kind of look like? Well, sometimes we're called on to deploy things and build the best technology for all kinds of weird problems that exist in this world. And sometimes we're called on to fix a problem or troubleshoot something that's not working the way that somebody else designed or that we designed. And in either way that you look at it, whatever your job role ends up being, troubleshooting things and keeping the lights on or building new things, knowledge and finding solutions are what we bring to the table as engineers, right? This is what the job calls for right here. And then I say, well, if that's what we deal in as currency, and this is what we're called on to do, this is what we need to understand for ourselves. And to a lesser extent, you not trying to get into the industry, the goal is to understand how to get yourself ready to do that and keep doing that for an industry, whatever you're interested in doing. Maybe you want to do it for insurance. Maybe you want to do it, maybe you want to go work on rockets with SpaceX. I don't know if you guys have seen this. You can go at any time on SpaceX and go do interviews with them. They'll take, I mean, you got to give them a compelling reason to want you, but there's that stuff. They've been doing that. Google and Facebook have been doing that for at least 10 years, where you could just at any time go find their thing and you could do these random questions that they used to have out there. I don't know if they still do it like this, but if you could pass those questions, you could at least get an interview. And they were typically like what most people would call like leak code problems nowadays, but this is the crux of it to start. All right. Overview. So this is what I'm going to talk about. Continuing education. I think you should learn how you learn. Everybody learns the same way. Now, I know everybody says, I learn different than everybody else. I assure you, for the most part, we learn similar. Now, there are people that have some different proclivities to how you learn, but whatever your way of learning is, you need to learn that. You don't need to learn how everybody else learns. You need to learn how you learn. So I'll show you that a little bit. We'll talk about certification. I think certifications are great. I think certifications are positive differentiators on resumes. Like if I like 3 people, but I only have 1 job, I'm going to look down and go, well, that person's got a cert, that person's got some college, and then I'm going to start weighing these positive differentiators around, these kind of things. And even if you don't have the money to take a certification test, you can still go get their body of knowledge and study those things to be able to go talk about them in an interview. If somebody wants a Red Hat certified administrator and you don't have the money to get that, you can still practice and train to get that cert, but not actually pay the money, and then at least go in and talk if they require it, for some weird reason, and there's no way, they don't even they're not even going to consider you without the certification. Okay, well, in that case, that's a thing. It is a thing sometimes that you need college to get in. I know I've gotten jobs before that were a cutoff that if you didn't have at least a master's degree in engineering, they weren't even going to consider you. And it's like, I realize that that's a delimiter, and that's a thing that might cut some people off, but this is one of these things that we at least think about. All right, anyway, so certification. I'm going to talk about home lab. You can do professional projects, personal projects. I think you should build out your own home lab. We've got a lot of people out in the industry doing that, a lot of people to help you do that, a lot of different ways to do that. And even if you don't want to pay for a home lab, we have resources. I have labs that you guys can get into from our Discord, right? And there's a lot of free resources in the cloud too. You should be able to do most of the stuff you need to inside of AWS for free for at least the first year. And some of you guys know when I went and got my certified cloud practitioner, my solutions architect associate, and my AWS security professional, when I got their security specialty, I got all 3 of those within about a month of each other when I first started. And I did not pay more than 76 cents in AWS fees. I wasn't using anything. I was just using their resources, building stuff, destroying it. And it was like 76 cents or something for those 2 months. It was nothing. So my point is there's a lot of resources out there for you guys for home labs. And if you don't want to get a home lab, Killer Code is one of the best free sites on the web because they give you just a massive amount of, like, you guys saw me doing all that processing in Killer Code right now and all those labs. They don't charge me anything for that. They won't charge you anything for that. Those labs are all free. I think you should build a book collection. There's a lot of ways to get books, right? There's some that are more, more underground than others, but I'm not going to tell you about those. I'm going to tell you how I get books and how I keep my book collection. And then maybe one of the most interesting things that I can tell you guys to get started right now is find like-minded people that are talking about this stuff and listen to how they talk. right? Engineers talk a certain way. People that do this stuff every day and get their hands on keyboards every day talk a certain way, and go find people that are talking about that stuff and hang out with them. Um, and then I say this is the last one. But if you can't find any other experts in your, you're the expert at your company, start mentoring the other people, bringing them up to speed. You'll find that they ask questions that you never would have thought of, and they'll ask things in a different way, and then now you'll have to go dig in, and it will make you better to mentor others. I'm not saying that like in some, I'm sitting up on a mountain with my hands up, saying Om or something like that. It's not some platitude. Working with people that think differently than you will help you to think about stuff that you don't normally think about. Okay. Yeah. This is this is a place. And I tell people all the time, if it's not us, right? If you don't like our Discord, if you don't like our community, find somebody. There's some community out there, man. There's guys doing Try Hack Me and Hack the Box, and there's a million places out there that are free and that cost money to get into and do this stuff if you want. All right. So this is a little bit of my overview. This is the first part. So I think you should learn how you learn. Now, everybody learns differently. Sure. Everybody, I've been listening to this from college students forever. I've been a college professor for 18 years in December, so 17 years. And there are a bunch of ways that we learn the same. But I'm going to tell you this right now. You got to figure out a schedule that works best for you. So if you say, hey, Scott, I don't get my hands on Linux right now at all, but I want to be a Linux engineer or a Linux admin, I say, okay, cool. You got to start doing at least 30 minutes a day of something. You got to get at some command line for at least 30 minutes a day. And you say, well, I can't do that. I get up in the morning at 5, I do the gym, I get ready for work, I got to be to work at 7. I say, now you got to get up at 4:30 and do it, right? This is a thing right here. You don't find time, you make it. That's all it is to it. And I practice what I preach. I get up and I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu every morning. I've been doing that I've been training every morning for 23 years, but I've been doing that sport for 23 years. And I get up 5 days a week to train at 4:20 in the morning, right? You don't find time, you make it, right? And that's what I need to do to get up. Do you need a Pomodoro timer to keep you on task? Do you just need something? Pomodoros are these little timers that'll just click off every 50 minutes of hard work, 10 minutes of snack or nappy time, right? Like just kind of, you can not work because it's really hard to just sit there and focus all day, right? It is mentally taxing. When you're thinking about learning, can you sit and watch videos for hours? Some people I know can do that. I actually can sit and watch videos while I'm doing other stuff, and then I'll stop them and go back. Also, one of the things that I learned very early on with, actually, it was one of the guys in our Discord. It might have been Quartz One or Control Byte. I always forget who did this, but probably 3 or 4 years ago, they were like, "Oh yeah, I watch videos on like 2x speed," and I was like, "Oh, I never once thought to watch videos that fast." And then now I watch videos on about I can consume things about 1.5 to 1.75. I know people that can watch videos at 3. I think people sound like the chipmunks at 3, but the point is you can watch things and learn how you can pick this stuff up. But can you sit and watch videos for hours? Learn, right? There's so much resources out there. Especially this was when we were doing AWS back in the day, and there's a few of us that went and got a bunch of AWS certs. They have so much reInvent video stuff up there that's free. There's so much stuff out there. And then I'm going to tell you this one. This is true of the gym for sure, but it's also true with your brain. A little daily is better than cramming once a week. People that just cram on like Sunday night for college, guys, I've been watching this for a long time. I've had probably close to 6,000 college students now in my career. Probably a little under 6,000. A little daily where you just read and work on it or do your labs or do whatever you're doing, a little bit every day is better than cramming once a week. You're like, oh, I didn't get my 30 minutes in each day, so on Sunday I'll do 3.5 hours. And I'm just telling you, it's not the same as just doing a little bit throughout the week. And then I think you should figure out what you're interested in, right? Take a self-assessment on what you're interested in. We have one free in Discord. I can pull one up real quick if you want. Yeah, you guys can watch me on YouTube. All right, there's probably all kinds of other stuff. Let me show you guys real quick what one of our little self-assessment is, but find out what you're interested in, because if you study things you're interested in, it's easier than studying things that you're not interested in. And that should go without saying, but it's really true. And also, this is really funny to me. Like, I was talking to guys on our server today, and they didn't know or had never heard that we're the Professional Linux Users Group, which is our Discord, which is at about 5,100 members, a little over 5,100 members. The whole purpose of it is to get you guys into the field. So there was people in there that are like, I didn't even know that that's what this is about. I'm like, I don't know how you found us then, but I guess I'm glad people are here. But this is what a little self-assessment matrix might look like. This is we're going to go through this quick as well because, again, the wife's coming home. So a self-assessment matrix looks something like this. And you can do this one or you can go find a million of them online. Like, again, you don't have to use my way of going about this. But the purpose of this is to find something that you're interested in, like determine skills and skill gaps that you have. And mainly the skills that you're capable of and then what you're interested in. And if there's a gap there, then you need to start driving your skills towards what you're interested in. And then also, I just put business skills as well. This was, I originally built this for a team that I was on, and the manager was like, well, hey, how do you think we could train these people up? And I said, well, why don't we find out what they want to do? So here's how you find out what you want to do. You go and you find a list like this, and you figure out how well you think you know the stuff. And if you come to this list and you say, hey, I'm all 10s, I say, well, I can't help you. I got nothing for you. But if you come over here and you say, well, my Linux is like I'm probably like a solid 4 in Linux, let's say. Let's just say that's where you put yourself. You do that all the way down, and then you come down to this next part, and it's your interests. So you're like a 4 in Linux, but your interest in Linux is like a 10. You want to do Linux. That's the career path that you've chosen. Well, then I tell you that's where you want to spend your time. But if you're like me, and I think my database is probably like a 3 or maybe like a 4, I can write SQL queries and stuff like that, but I don't do that professionally. But then my interest in database is 1. I do not want to do database work. Could I get by if I was like in a drought and I had to find some work, and would I do database stuff? Sure. But that's not like where I'm going to spend my time studying in my career, right? So this is a thing for you to go find what you're interested in. This is business stuff, right? You could add stuff to the list, whatever. And then how interested are you? Some people never want to manage people. I'm one of them. I don't even like managing college students. I always call it wiping people's noses. I don't want to wipe people's noses and deal with like all the sad things people bring you when you're in charge of like their grades and stuff. Like I don't want to deal with that stuff. But we we have to. So some of us never want to manage other people professionally. I don't. In fact, I tell people all the time, I've never had authority over anybody in any company I've ever been in. My authority has always been what we call a technical authority, which is you want to listen to me because I'm probably giving you the right answer. Which, by the way, goes back to that truth thing I was talking about. But anyway, so then you do a SWOT analysis, and this is one the guys in our server really struggle with sometimes. You can go see some arguments I was having with people earlier, where there are things that are within your control in this life, and there are things that are outside of your control in this life. That's all there is to it, right? And when we do a SWOT analysis, it's our strengths and weaknesses, which are mostly internal to us, versus our external, which are things out of our control. I can't control that the economy's bad right now. I really can't. Right? I can't control whether the news says the economy is bad or not. I can't control if levels.fyi says the economy is good or bad, which I wouldn't use that as an indicator of anything, but some people want to. But this is a SWOT analysis, so you can figure out what you're good at and what you can do well, what you excel at, and how you like to learn, and then you can lean into those things. Or you can do what some people do and just sit back and go, well, there's a lion in the street. I guess I die today, right? Like I can't do anything about it. And you're like, well, I couldn't control the markets when I had, I've had 2 jobs for the last almost 20 years, right? As an engineer and a college professor. So I can't, I can't control what the market's doing. I have no control over that. Another one, I talk about geopolitical, right? Like maybe you've been learning Russian and you were doing like a Russian import business for the last 30 years. And then, I mean, a few years ago, Russia invades some country that's not US, right? But we are completely blocked off from doing business with them. So now your company that you've been running and maybe you had a family business or something and you speak Russian and you have all this other stuff, there's nothing you can do about that. You can't, I don't know if you guys know this, but in the US, we can't do anything with Russia. The individual people, they're not part of that war necessarily. They're just people like we are, right? But anyways, my point is, whatever you think about that, that's outside of your control. And the whole reason for me showing you this is you can do any of these things. And then this is another one. This is what we call Ikigai. right? I think it's Ikigai. It's find out what you're good at, what you love, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. And if you can find that sweet spot, you probably have something that's kind of fun. Something that you can live with, at least working, right? It's still work. I tell people all the time, like I love Linux, but going to work is still work. I still have meetings I have to sit in and that kind of stuff, right? So anyways, that's up in the Discord. That's in the presentation section if you need it. Find out what you're interested in, and then work on projects that allow you to do what you're interested in, that are still related to what you do. Like everything I do in the lab, everything that's built in my home lab is all Linux, right? And then some of you guys know that in Discord you can get access into our servers and go do Linux in there. Well, the reason we do that is because we want to give you the ability to work on projects. Now, we have all kinds of stuff to that same point. Where is this at? We have, I'm going to link this to you guys that want it. We have 3 free books out there. I'll just drop right there. It should go on both sides. These are just free books that you guys can use. That teach you the Linux administration or Linux security engineering or Linux automation. The Linux automation one's still in progress a little bit, but these are just free books that are out there that you guys can use. And then you could use our lab servers to practice that stuff if you want. Right? And then I have a bunch of stuff out there. But the point is, find things that are interesting to you and build on that. Another one. This is something that maybe, unless you've been to college, you might never have thought of. But there's this concept called the Bloom's taxonomy, right? Bloom's taxonomy is how you learn. This guy came out with this idea that we start down at the bottom, where if we were going to learn how to do a thing, we have to start out first by understanding like the building blocks of it. It's the same thing if any of you guys have ever done argumentation or debate teams. We have to agree on terms before we can even have a debate. If I'm not going to use anything that's like hot button, but if we wanted to talk about like economics and you refuse to agree that there's a thing called supply and demand, then I'd say, okay, well, what do we want to call this concept of people want you to buy things and there's only so much things? Do we agree that there's a theory of economic constraint or do we not, right? And then we may have to back way up. But that's the idea. This bottom part where you just remember things, I call it like a glossary remembering of things. So, just do you understand all the keywords? And if you've ever remembered back to like when you were in 3rd grade and the teacher would give you a bunch of keywords about a story you were going to read, and there were words in there like, let's say mongoose and rattlesnake or cobra, and there were all these things, and you're like, oh, what is this? I got to learn all these things before I can read Ricky Tikki Tavi because I don't understand what these things are. Maybe there's a bunch of keywords about it that help us to understand. By the way, if anybody's wondering, Ricky Tikki Tavi is my favorite of the jungle stories in the Jungle Book, right? And if anybody knows who that is, he's awesome. What was the question? The want provider framework rather than supply? Sure, whatever. Yeah, but we can hash that out. But then from these basic understanding things, we can start to like build our knowledge. If I start by just saying, we go into the Linux command line and we interact with the kernel. The kernel's dealing with hardware, and it interacts with hardware through drivers and modules that are loaded in after the kernel. And then somebody, I'm talking for 15 minutes and somebody goes, what's a kernel? So years ago, I was at this thing called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Globetrotters, but it's BJJ Globetrotters. But when you say it like that, people snicker. So I was at this thing and we were doing a technique. The guy was teaching specifically on a tool. It's a thing called the 411 or the honey hole. You guys can look that up if you want. But I remember we got all the way to the end of this hour-long kind of session at this camp we were doing, and it was like a 4 or 5 day like intensive on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And one of the guys said, so the instructor had been coaching and showing all this stuff, and we were practicing all these techniques and stuff. And he goes, "Are there any questions?" He's done this whole thing. We've been doing all these techniques and stuff, and my buddy goes, "What's a honey hole?" He's like, that's the technique we've been doing the whole time, which is it's a leg lace position, but it doesn't really matter to this conversation. But the point is, my friend was stuck on that one thing. He had done all these techniques, he had learned all this stuff, but like there's a thing, man. We're not going to get into it right now, but I have these things that I learned over the years from managers that are good managers. I'm not one of them. The KFC colonel. Yeah. Somebody's thinking about chicken, but they're not even, yeah, they're not tracking. So a lot of times you start down at the bottom, you remember things, and then you start to understand ideas or concepts, and we put those words together, right? Like if I start talking about risk management and I just started going right into quantitative and qualitative frameworks, some people would be like, oh my gosh. But if I said, hold on, quantitative frameworks always deal with numbers, qualitative frameworks always deal with subjective values like low, medium, and high. Immediately, for the rest of the time that I talk to you about risk management framework, if I said quantitative, you'd say, Scott's talking about numbers. And if I said qualitative, oh, Scott's talking about low, medium, or high, kind of a subjective value. But when we present it to people, we can do like red, yellow, and green. And management really likes that, man. Executive summaries, they love colors because they're like, oh, that red pot, that's bad. That's about to start on fire. And you're like, that's what I was going for, right? I want to yeah. That's exactly right. Yeah, qualitative. And by the way, my dissertation's on quantitative analysis because I'm not a qualitative person. When people start telling me about their feelings, I'm just like checking out, right? Um, but that's probably kind of how I was raised. But I also have four brothers, so we're very much like a no nonsense group. Anyways, applying it all the way up through creating. But the point is, you should learn how you learn. And one of the things that you'll find is like it's not just silliness to understand word lists and things that are around a topic, because now you're going to start to catch words here and there that make sense. And I always use this example, but there's a fantastic movie that did not do well in theaters. I think it was like 97 or 98 it came out. It's called The 13th Warrior. And in The 13th Warrior, the character is the 13th warrior that goes with these 12 Norsemen up north to fight the Eaters of the Dead, right? It's actually a Michael Crichton book called The Eaters of the Dead. Book's fantastic, the movie's fantastic. But when he goes up there, he doesn't know their language. He doesn't even speak their language at all. But as they're going, as they're traveling, he's watching them, and you start to hear a word here and there. He's like understanding like a few things that they say. And finally, when they get up near where this terrible thing is happening with these Eaters of the Dead and the fireworms and all these things, he ends up. They say, oh, only an Arab would bring a pony to war or something like that. And he looks over and he goes, or a dog to war. He would bring a dog to war because his pony's so small compared to theirs. And he looks at him and he goes, the only dog here is your mother. And the guy like gets real offended. He's like, when did you learn our language? Or how did you learn our language? And he says, I listened, right? And this is why I always tell you guys, sit with the engineers. And then it's really funny because all the guys look around and they all start laughing because they're kind of like these old warriors that like, they don't give a fuck about the stuff that's not that important in life. And you'll also find that out with engineers. There's stuff that they just don't care about because they're all about the business, right? But my point is, you got to know the word. So, all right, I went pretty far afield on that one. But there's this thing that's called the competence, and it's the conscious competence model. That's what this is called, conscious competence model. And it's the idea that up here, you're very aware, and down here, you're very unaware. And on the left, you're very incompetent, meaning you don't know what you're doing. And on the right, you're very competent, right? So you start down here and you don't know what you don't know. You don't know anything about how to drive a car when you first get on there. You don't know anything about driving around in the Linux systems. You're unconsciously incompetent. Like if I were just to pull this up, I went like this, and you don't have any idea what's going on here, you'd be like, I think it runs on electricity. And I'd be like, well, you're not wrong. Anybody know what line that's from? That's from a movie too. But you don't know anything. And then you start to figure some stuff out, and you very quickly find out that you are aware that you do not know a whole lot of stuff. So you start to learn things about the system. Then you move over here and you start to develop like a competency around moving within the system and doing things within the system. But you're having to work. You're very conscious about like what you're doing, right? You develop proficiency, but you have to actively think to maintain it. And then down here, you can just kind of do it. You can just go in and somebody's like, hey, reset that service. And you're just like systemctl, restart, whatever. And you don't even have to think about it anymore. You're unconscious about your competence. I use an example often when you first started driving a vehicle, especially if you learned on a clutch, right? Like I did. You're like, okay, I got to let out the clutch. I got to put the in gear. I got to give it a little gas to go, move into gear, move through the gears, whatever. Okay, what gear comes next? And it goes pretty quick, but it does take some time to learn. And as you're doing that, at first, you don't want to listen to the radio. You don't want to be smoking. I don't smoke, but you don't want to be smoking a cigarette. You don't want the wind blowing in your face, nothing. But then you come over here and you've been driving for 5 years. You got your arm out the window, you're smoking, you got the radio up, you can talk with your friends while you're driving. You don't even think about shifting anymore. It's super easy to you, right? But that's an unconscious competence. The reason I show you guys this model is because this is how you pick up competencies. This is how you become aware of most things. But I challenge engineers to stay up here in your conscious competence. Because if you get down here, this is where you hear about people, they just did one thing in the industry for 10 years and then the industry changes and they can't react. Like this AI thing comes out and everybody's like, oh my God, I don't even know what I do anymore. I can't do anything. And then they just fall out of the industry and go over to like HR or something. Well, if we stay up here where we keep ourselves learning all the time, learning new things and going back through and driving over to here, we can keep ourselves pretty relevant to the industry, I think. That's true. Null dev early on in my career, I remember I was sitting in a college class and I was like, I was in the Army still and I was like, I'm going to have to keep learning for the rest of my career. So I decided, well, I want to be in front of the classroom. I'd rather them pay me if I'm going to be in a class. So I get all the cool books and stuff. Some of you guys know I'm a collector of books. I have every book from every college class I ever took and every college class I've ever taught out of. I have every book that they've ever given me from the colleges or that I paid for. So, and in development, yeah, you must be actively adapting. Yeah, 100%. People that didn't get on the Docker Kubernetes thing, because I remember when Docker was coming out in 2013 and none of us had even heard of it really. And it was like starting to come out and one of my managers was like, guys, we got to get on this. We need to understand what this is. We need to play around with this. And we started using it. And then when Kubernetes started orchestrating a lot of that stuff, it was like, this is the way the industry is going to go. And not surprisingly, it is the way the industry has gone, right? For a lot of things, I mean, there are still things that we don't use Kubernetes for, but Kubernetes is just so convenient for so many things that you really have to understand it in our industry. So. All right, so learning how you learn. This is another one, right? And this is the model that I use in all of our books and all of our stuff. It's the explore, practice, apply. Explore. We talk about things. We work through them. Guys, if you've ever been in our Discord, we have discussion threads. And if you're doing our courses with us, you have to do the discussion threads. And you're like, what the hell is this? College? That's not college. It's way more free. But you get into college to work with other people that are like-minded like you, right? It's not just for the knowledge from the professors. And you might say, Scott, how do you know that's true? Because one of the best engineering colleges in the world is MIT, and MIT has been publishing all of their coursework for the last 15 years online. The MIT open coursework is free. You guys can drop stream right now. You don't have to, but you can. And you can go to mit.opencourseware.edu, I think it is. Or is it opencourseware.mit.edu? You can look it up. It's called OpenCourseWare. They have everything published. And you might say, well, shoot, why can't I just learn this? Well, shit, everything, the entirety of everybody's life that's watching me right now, all the knowledge you've ever needed was in the library or the internet, so why don't you know it? Well, because not just, and you might say, oh, I needed a structured teacher. Not always. Sometimes you just needed other people around you that were also interested in it, driving you towards it. And that's actually one of the most important values of going to college, is to have other like-minded people around you, which is why when you do the courses with us, which I got to set up a new automation course for this year, you work through it with other people and you have discussions about it. And sometimes you agree, sometimes you clash, but that's academia, right? That's what you do this stuff for. All right, and then we practice, we engage, and we do labs and exercises and role playing and modeling and talking through these things. And that's what like Killer Coda and your home lab type stuff is. And then we go apply it to real complex problems out in the world. And there's like a project in most of our courses. So you got to learn how to do this stuff, right? And then you can take some of that stuff and make it part of like a portfolio, and you can show it to people, and you can work to get into the field. Well, why do I have that down there? Huh, that shouldn't be down there anymore. All right. So now we get into certification. So if you guys remember my little bulleted list, certification, there's a whole bunch of certs out there, and they're all good. But they're all good tempered against what you want to do. Don't go get an ISC squared certification if you don't want to do cybersecurity in some way. If you tell me, hey, Scott, I want to focus on Linux, I would tell you to do something around Linux, like focus heavily into Linux. ISC squared is more of a cybersecurity thing, right? And some of you guys know I hold these two certifications. I keep these current. But there's a certified in cybersecurity, which is an entry level one. And we have training that I've been putting that together. This is like 2 years old and I haven't finished that training. But, you know, we talk through this stuff pretty often, right? For people that come to our meetings and stuff. Then there's CompTIA, Linux Foundation, Cloud Certs. There's all kinds of places that you can go to get certifications, right? Here's all the free certifications that I know about. Although I think API Academy is closed down. Like they had moved it somewhere, and then I checked recently, and it was down. But if you wanted to know general engineering and you just wanted some things on your resume that looked good, I think that understanding Six Sigma, which is process improvement, is a really good one to start. There are free certifications and free training that are out there on these two websites. You go Six Sigma Council. They have all the training out there for free, and the certification tests at white belt level are free. And you might say, well, Scott, I have a really, really blank resume that just has, I did some stuff in college. I worked and I cut bagels or something for my whole time in high school, and I don't really have anything else. I didn't finish college and this and this. And I go, well, there's some things you can go put on your resume that kind of look good. One that everybody always likes, Gremlin Chaos Engineering. This one's fun. Studying for this one is fun. Have you guys ever dug into this? This is one of these guys has this really awesome. I'm gonna link this for you guys here. You guys want it? Also, links don't come through if you drop them on Twitch, so you can drop them in the Discord though, and I'll go do my risky click of the day. But this guy has some really awesome. He's curated hundreds of hours worth of stuff for you guys to go read about chaos engineering if you want to get into that. Chaos engineering is directly related to the field of site reliability engineering. So if you say, hey Scott, I want to be an SRE engineer, that was something that was asked earlier by Nothing, I think. This is a free certification that exists out there that you guys can work through if you wanted to. But look at all this stuff. And the actual certification is over at Gremlin, right? The Gremlin Chaos Engineering cert. There's a free one from this is what is it called? Hurricane Electric. They have a free IPv6 one. They'll give you the training and the certification test for free. And they used to send you a shirt. You could get a white shirt from them that teaches you all about once you've passed their IPv6. But they've got labs and stuff that teach you how IPv6 works. So you can go get certified in that. These are all free. The training and the certification test is free. Although, again, I think that the API Academy, I think this has been closed down. It got bought by, was it Broadcom? And then it was maintained by them for a couple years, and then I think this one's gone away. But you can look up API Academy online and see if it's still there, right? Here's some training where the certification's not free, but all the training is free. So if you wanted to go to Killer Coda, there's so many labs on there. You want to go learn stuff, there's all kinds of time in there. All the other belt levels of Six Sigma are free online. So the studying of them are free, but the certification test starts to cost money. So, you know, if you go past the white belt level, it starts to cost money. But that's the thing, you can at least get the white belt on your resume if you got nothing else. Terraform and Vault, they're completely free to study. They even have labs on their sites now in there. So HashiCorp, they still teach you how to use their tools for free. You want to get into data science? Kaggle will teach you all about that for free. Machine learning, all that stuff. General Web, W3 schools. I still reference W3 schools all the time. They are where 20 plus years ago where I learned how to do HTML was with them. I don't really use HTML in my career, but I understand how to stand up a website if I need to. General Linux, tldp.org. They'll teach you all about Bash, all about moving around in Linux. And then web security, you want to learn how PortSwigger, this is Burp Suite. So if you have ever heard of Burp Suite, which is a structured way of testing web pages for vulnerabilities, you can go learn all of their stuff for free on portswigger.net. There's a bunch of other free training that's out there. This is not exhaustive in any way, but these are ones that I know of. There's also falco.org, which is the Falco tool, which is a eBPF reader for container. It's a graduated CNCF project, but there's all kinds of things out here. Imagine a free Cisco cert, really. Yeah. Cisco's they're always gonna make you pay for their certs, right? So then from there, from certification, we talk about building yourself a home lab. I think that you should build a home lab. This is dated because my stuff does cost over $500 now. My lab is probably sitting at around $2,000 now. But still, you can spend some time building out stuff that's interesting to you. You can buy old stuff all over the place. You don't have to buy top of the line stuff, but you can. What I've built out, you can also do a lot of free stuff in AWS. My system's a little more expensive now because this box here, this Proxmox server was about $1,500, this one. And then all of my other servers were probably all told only about $500 together. And I ran them for many years. But build yourself a home lab out. Put some Linux on it, put some XCPNG or some Proxmox on it and virtualize it and practice that kind of stuff, right? So that you understand how it works and how to talk to it in the industry. Find some personal projects that are interesting to you. I've been a digital engineer and like network engineer since I started. So I like to play with digital signals. That's a fun thing to me. There's a bunch of open source tools that allow you to do that and play with that. I think it helps reduce burnout and keeps you interested in the field and going and messing with things that are kind of fun. Get yourself little Raspberry Pis. Those things are cheap as crap. I used to buy those things for $35. I saw that some of them are more expensive now, but you can still get Raspberry Pis for dirt cheap. And I don't have to run ProLUG or build labs or anything, but that's interesting to me because it keeps me sharp, right? Building these labs. You guys just saw me put a lab together if you were here. We just put together the Slurm DBD lab, and you guys saw me work through all of that from my notes and then just building it in the environment, right, in Killer Coda. So you guys saw me do that. I have a whole bunch of free labs out there. I think I'm up to 80, almost 80 labs that you guys can do. Killer Coda, they've never charged me anything. I've been using them for like 4 years. They've never charged me anything. But personal stuff that's interesting to you. Then you can do professional stuff. You can do stuff that relates to your job, right? Like I've been using Ansible since 2013, right? Some of you guys know that. I've been using Ansible for a long time. But I also use it to automate stuff outside of my job, right? I monitor everything at home and at work. I professionally monitor stuff for government systems. This is dated. I used to maintain about 5,000 systems when I was the platform engineering lead at AAA. Now I maintain about 6,500 systems between 2 different data centers, and I maintain all of the Grafana graphs and all that stuff for that as well. But I built out all of these different ways to read in my home system. So you guys that have been around, you know that I have all these different monitors going on to tell me how healthy my systems are, right? I actually have to look at some of these. I keep mentioning that I'm going to look at these, but some of these I need to go like figure out why Loki is running at 87. Plus Loki needs to move off of the old hardware into the newer environment. So some of these need to move. And then they're probably going to perform a little better. But anyways, the point is monitor stuff, right? Do things that are interesting to you, right? And in this case, this is also professional stuff. All right. Build yourself a book collection. This was another topic that I mentioned earlier. Yeah, Cisco is money. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me pull this back up so you guys can see yourselves talking. Cisco does cost money. That's true. I think books have they're great for reading and reference. And then this is another thing. This isn't something I think this is something that's true. There is more rigor and correctness around a book that's been published, even if it's like an ebook that's been published by an organization, than you're going to find in forums. And what I mean by that is they are going to go deeper into the topics you probably care about if you're working on some tool than somebody who just figured it out in a forum, right? That kind of stuff. So there are paid for but very good bundles on Humble Bundle. I'm a big fan of Humble Bundle. I haven't done it in a while, but I used to give like we would do like a roll here in chat, and then it would like I would donate Humble Bundles to you guys because I do believe in them, and I think that that's an excellent thing that you guys can do. I do have a book on LeanPub. This is the only thing that you can actually pay for around here if you wanted to. It's the Big Book of Labs. It goes over those free labs in Killer Coda, but it goes more in depth, right? So that's the thing. There's a bunch of free books online. The SRE Google books, if you guys have never seen these, there's just a bunch of free books on getting into site reliability engineering. So if you needed these, let me get this out of the way. That's a very important thing for a lot of people. And this also will help you if you're trying to get into monitoring and those types of things. What do we monitor? Because monitoring very quickly can just become noise. We can track so many things. We can scroll things off the bottom of screens and then they're useless as dashboards. We can track all of the metrics and numbers in the world to no end, to where people will no longer even look at them or try to read them. There's all kinds of stuff that can happen, right? But the books are really good at helping you like understand exactly. O'Reilly books are fine too. You can sometimes get O'Reilly books for pretty cheap some places. There's also look guys, there's also places on the web to just get books, but I pay for them nowadays because I've been an engineer a long time. But um, I remember the lean years when I first started out, right? I remember picking stuff up on the internet for free 99. I get it. All right. Industry discussion. This is maybe the most useful or interesting thing I can tell you guys about is you just got to like get your fingers on the pulse of like what's going. You can't see my hand. Fingers on the pulse of what's going on, right? Like how is this thing alive? Like what's going on? Um, there's all kinds of technology podcasts and topics that interest you. I tell people don't if you're trying to learn something, don't get sucked into infotainment. There's all kinds of fun things out there. There's all kinds of Netflix and Amazon and YouTube. You can watch videos all day, but if you're trying to like have a goal and getting somewhere, then you might have to step away from the Mr. Ballin podcasts and the these other guys who aren't necessarily doing anything but entertainment, right? And infotainment is not Mr. Ballin tells scary stories, but I'm talking about like there's other people that they look like it's technology and they're doing some stuff, but they're not really teaching you anything. And I'm like, well, it's not that that's terrible. It's just you can really get sucked in on that, and it's going to waste a lot of your time. So there's that. Find a Slack, Discord, Usenet group about the topics you're interested in. There's a whole bunch of them. Reddit. Normally, I think Reddit's just a hive of scumbag and villainy, but sometimes there's some good stuff out there. There's Measure Camp, so getting into data analytics, especially like Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, any of these different things. The Measure Camp and Measure Slack are really good tools for you to go and just sit in and listen to how engineers are talking about things that are going on in the industry. So there's a lot of stuff. And I have some good friends that are very, very involved with Measure Slack. And I've actually talked at Measure Camp a few times. I haven't, but my friends have. I think you should get involved in open source projects. Find something that's interesting to you. Back to that, that self-assessment we were talking about. Find something that you want to work in, and you could be working tonight on open source projects. Go find something around HPC or some of these newer initiatives. Most of these are less than 2 or 3 years old right here around high performance compute in the open source community, open source world. There's all kinds of literally hundreds, if not thousands. There's probably thousands now of free labs on Killer Coda, and there's all kinds of government resources. Now, I always show you guys the NOAA.gov because there's free, if you guys don't know, there's open free meetings that you can go and listen to where they will tell you about NOAA things and stuff that's going on. That's the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Agency, by the way. But there's all kinds of them going on all the time. Let's get in there. I think they busted there. All right. Let's just go to NOAA seminars. Here's their science series. Yeah, here's their science series. I think my link is just bad there. Here's their science seminars. And let's make sure that's good before I send it to any of you guys. Yeah. So this is just all these new upcoming. You can go listen to people talk about the science, but you can also get very involved with it as well if you wanted to. Here, let me get that link back up for you guys. Drop this link in here as well. Also, yeah, you guys are dropping the Discord. Discord is in, that link should work for you guys on the Twitch side. On the YouTube side is just in the description. But there's also all the open data sites. I want to say there's about 350,000 of these right now, just opendata.gov things that you can download. And I'll tell you guys that the reason the U.S. government has open data like that, well, there's probably a few reasons, but one of the ones that I know of from being, I deal with research scientists all day. That's one of the things I deal with and do. They found that citizens doing science and citizens finding things that they're interested in, going and digging into it from open models, they will go in. You're Moroccan? Nice. They will go in and they will figure things out more than like paid research teams will, because they just want to churn through the data and they have all this processing and they'll just throwing techniques at it and figuring stuff out in ways that maybe like, and I put this in air quotes, serious scientists or trained scientists don't even think to do. So all these open data stuff, all these things that are out there, there's all kinds of awesome analyses done by people. It's really good for data science. And you can take any of those tools and go apply them to things that you learn for free from Kaggle, and you may find yourself falling into a role that's like that. Now, I like data analytics. I have a brother who has his master's in data analytics, and he does that for a big insurance company. I never really fell in love with it, but it's one of those things where I tell you guys, it's even in my profiles, like I'm an amateur data scientist. I play with data all the time. You know, I go look at numbers. When COVID hit, I was digging into that John Hopkins University data that they were posting out there, and I was churning through data all the time because I thought it was interesting. But I don't do that professionally. I mean, maybe later on in my career. I've got to do it a little bit for my dissertation that I'm finishing up on, but the point is, there's all kinds of stuff out there in the industry, and again, find something. And I tell people all the time, if it's not us, right? If you're like, hey, I can't listen to this guy for another minute, I'm about to hang up the channel, that's fine. Find somebody. If it's not us, find somebody that's interesting to you that talks about the things that you want to get involved in, right? If you're like, and by the way, this is a very valid criticism of my channel. Some people say Scott doesn't do enough cybersecurity stuff. It's true. I might not do enough cybersecurity stuff all the time for people. So go get your activities somewhere else. There's all kind. I BlazeBits. I think BlazeBits is on right now. BlazeBits is over on Twitch. We might even raid him here in a minute. Fantastic streamer that does pen testing. That's all he does. Some of you guys know I ran the red team at AAA for not very long before I was like, you know what? This isn't really for me. I'm going to go back over into high performance compute, and that's where my career kind of took me. But there's all kinds of stuff out there. All I need to know is where to start. Yeah, knots. I would start with getting into a community, right? Discord is fine. And then I would start, again, free stuff. Our free courses here. You can go to our professional links users group, but mainly here, this is a free course. We got a few free courses, but systems administration for the enterprise. This is our free course. Oh, we have a few free courses. Plus, everything I have online is all free. So, so for review, I think you should learn how you learn, right? This presentation's up in the Discord and presentation channel. I think you should think about certifications, even if you don't get certifications, if you don't spend the money, go study the body of knowledge. Some of you guys know, I'll tell you guys a story. I found this out right when I was getting back. So this would have been like the middle of July. I'm sitting there looking at my emails. I just got back from vacation with the wife. Looking at my emails going, wait a minute, I got to take a Linux essential test to teach this course. I've been doing Linux for like 25 years in the industry, getting paid for it. But to teach for this college, for the college that I'm at, for this one course, I need to go check this box on some Linux essentials test. So I went and I looked at their body of knowledge, and I looked it on stream a few times. Some of you guys were around for that. And I was just like, okay, I know that check, know that check. We were walking through it, we were talking about it and stuff, and I feel pretty good. I read a whole book on it, and I have this little tool through my college where I can just read books. And then I found out that they give me experience points, and I was like, now I want all those experience points. So I've been doing a bunch of the classes and like I guess EXP maxing, right? As they say nowadays. But this certification, I have no professional reason to get a Linux Essential certification. It's lower than the LPIC 1. LPIC 1 and LPIC 2, this is lower than it, but I have to get it to check this box. And I told them, I was like, I'm going to get my systems engineering PhD by like probably March or April of next year, but I still need to do this. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, all right, well, I guess so. But look, that's college sometimes, right? And as engineers, we check boxes. That's what we do. So it's good. I think you should build a home lab. If you don't have a home lab or don't have resources to get to it, start with Killer Coda. Get involved with, we have labs. I have a bunch of servers. Some of you guys have seen them. I have servers that you guys can get in at any given time, right? We can check if anybody's even in them right now. Where are we at here? In the Bastion. Nobody's in them right now. So there's 15 servers just sitting there waiting. When you're done with them, you just wipe them. So go to Rocky 5, DNF install Calce. Right, maybe we put that on the server. Maybe it's not there. Maybe it's already there. DNF install MariaDB. Right, I don't know if install that, and then reboot the box. We know that it comes up clean every time, right? We've been over this, but I'll show it to you guys that haven't been around. Right, in the lab, Rocky 5, he's what's going on here? Am I not logged in? No, I'm not logged in. Hold on. It's because I haven't been on here in a while. I'll log back in. Rocky 5 is already booting. He's already pulled his iPixie information from Werewolf, and now he's booting up into a brand new server. So he's a brand new server. He's up, right? And if I say RPM QA, MariaDB is not on this server. There's nothing. He is a wiped image back to the original image, right? They're kind of like trap doors that fall and come back up. And you guys can use these servers as much as you need for lab stuff and all that kind of stuff. And that's all in Discord if you guys need to get a hold of that. You go down to the lab. What's the minimum recommended for home lab? I mean, as long as you can get to a command line prompt. I mean, I'd say 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM. Or virtual box on a laptop. If you got a laptop that can watch me, you could probably at least run something. And if you can't run something, then just go into the Killer Coda labs and get it a command line. That would be the bare minimum. Is just go to Killer Coda right here. And there's Sandbox. Or you can go through the guided labs, right? There's all kinds of guided labs, right? Say, hey, I want to learn some Ansible. Oh, this guy Scott Champlain will teach me how to do Ansible, right? And he'll teach me how to walk through Ansible, right? He'll do a bunch of labs. I think those labs are pretty good. I like those. Sometimes I review them and we go through them. And then, get a book collection. You can find books on the web. Sometimes people drop them. Sometimes you just buy them off the Humble Bundle. But early on in your careers, I get that sometimes you guys go through other ways of finding things. I know that that's a thing. That's real. Find industry discussions. Find people that are talking about the things that you want to do. And sit with them. Sit with the engineers. Sit with the people that are doing the things you want to do. And then again, if you find yourself being an expert somewhere, start mentoring others about what you do. All right. And then questions. I always tell my students to email me. You guys should just find me on Discord if you want. It's more persistent. Discord's a more persistent way to find me than being in online or anything like that. All right, let me get rid of this. And what's this? What's going on over here? Yeah, 8 to 10 gigs of RAM. Yeah. You can get away with a little bit. Let's see what's going on here. This is all my HPC stuff, so I need to keep that up. But yeah, really, I think you guys can definitely. And there's all this debate in our Discord, and I'm not a big fan of it, where it's like, hey, we can't, nobody can get in the industry right now, and I think that that's a pretty just looking down at your shoes way of thinking of things. There's definitely more on the horizon than just nobody can get in the industry right now. It may be hard to get in the industry. It may be competitive in some ways, but I know that like looking down at your shoes and complaining about it isn't going to get you there, right? So I tell people, this is back to what I was talking about earlier. You got to focus on what you can do, right? You can sit around and you can worry all the time, but remember Van Wilder said, worry is a lot like an exercise bike. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere, right? It doesn't take you anywhere. So I need somebody to like ! Clip that. I'm just kidding, but yeah, this is kind of what we do around here, right? We work through stuff, we figure stuff out. Yeah, I think that'll work. Let me see. Let's see if it actually says that it created a clip. It should do it. I have a command for it in my thing. I haven't used that command in a long time though, so I think it's set up. Should record the last 30 seconds. Yeah, there it is. Yeah. Let me see. Let's see what the clip looks like. Like looking down at your shoes and complaining about it isn't going to get you there, right? So I tell you, this is back to what I was talking about earlier. You got to. There you go. All right, there you go. There's me. There's me talking about me. It's like a Scottception. Scott all the way down. All right. I have my XCPNG. I have a few of those that have 128 gigs of RAM in the home lab here. If you're talking about mine, yeah, there's a few of those that are kind of bigger. All right. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna call this. We'll say that this could be a good time to end the stream. Let's go drop over to this. Wait, is that gonna play? Let's see. Let's see if it plays. Boom. All right. For everybody on the YouTube side, I appreciate you guys coming by.